everybody, and welcome to today's Knowledge at Noon series. My name is Jonathan Henry. I am a marketing manager here at the School of Continuing Studies at Georgetown. And today's event is called A Knowledge at Noon, Exploring the Continuum of AI in Coaching. So our faculty expertise today is from Kimberly Parsons, who is faculty member within our Executive Certificate in Leadership Coaching here at the School of Continuing Studies in the Institute for Transformational Leadership. So I'm going to bring Kimberly in here now, and here we go. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, Jonathan.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Okay, great. So without further ado to everyone else here, I'm going to hand it over to you for you and our panelist members today. So thank you so much for being here.
Okay, perfect. Welcome, everyone. So delighted to have you all here with us at Knowledge at Noon for AI in coaching. I am excited for this topic. I'm excited to be here with my fellow panelists that we will have a conversation with. And my intent for this session is really for it to be a conversation. So as we are going through, please put your questions, your comments, your questions into the chat box as we're going. And this will be a panel discussion. So as we're talking, I'll feather your questions in as we are talking with our fellow coaches that are on the panel today. So just by way of introduction again, quickly, I am Kimberly Lewis Parsons. I'm based out of Richmond, Virginia. I am a graduate of the Executive Certificate in Leadership Coaching program. I matriculated in 2009 and have been coaching for about 17 years. My specialty area of coaching is executive team coaching, so really going deep with leadership teams, helping them to transform their performance through several things, but coaching is one of the ways that I do that. I've been on the faculty in the leadership coaching program at Georgetown for 8 years. I think it might be 9 years. So really passionate about how we're using coaching as a lever to change the world for good. And when I was asked by Georgetown to do our session today, I was like, it would be really amazing if we had some fellow coaches come in and really help us to see kind of the bigger picture of how we can use AI in the practice, in our businesses, in our practice of coaching with one another. So I thought it would be fun for us to really talk to real coaches who are bringing you real examples of how they're integrating AI in the way that they work, in the way that they serve their clients. And here's the thing. We all know that AI is important. We know it's here. And I kind of like entered into this conversation a few years ago, right? Like with this feeling of overwhelm of like, I either need to be all or nothing. I'm either using a chat or I need to have like full scale system with a whole IT team. And it took me a while to kind of like mentally like switch and step back and say, okay, wait. There is a continuum. And so the better question is not like, am I all in or not? For me, that question became, where am I along the continuum? And what's my progression through that continuum? And where might I want to go next? Because it's a journey, right? Like Rome wasn't built in a day, as the saying goes. And so for this conversation, I wanted to start just kind of with a organizing framework of a continuum to hold in mind. So as we're talking, our panelists will share kind of like where they are in their journey and how they are using AI in coaching to give us some ideas of where am I and where might I go next on this journey? Where might I explore? So I'm going to start with the slide and then to give you all the continuum, here's a question I'll plant for you as I am sharing this is, where are you? Where are you? Where are you along this continuum? And then we'll bring our panelists to the stage. Okay. I'm going to see head nods. Okay. Yes, let's go. All right. Really quickly. And again, this is meant to just be an organizing container for us as we are having this conversation. Right. So sources for this, MIT, if you do a search on AI maturity models and frameworks, you'll see. So this is like me really distilling down information for the sake of this conversation. So remember the question is like, where are you on this model? So All the way on the left-hand side, really experimentation. Like in this stage of experimentation, this is, and one of our panelists, I was talking to Drew, he's like, there is something even further to the left of I'm not touching it, I'm not doing it, I'm not even in the game. So we're going to assume that you're here in the game and you're in experimentation in this stage. And so this is where you're really getting comfortable with the technology. You're getting comfortable with the idea of integrating it into your workflow. This is where education is happening. You're preparing your data. You're starting to think about how you will use this, and you're starting to do skill building, right? I kind of put down here on the bottom this type of some of the types of models or uses of AI off the shelf is typically one of those things. The chat boxes. My son is getting really familiar with using just kind of Gemini when he's doing Google searches, right? So it's really like out of the box. And Gen AI is like the space that you're playing in this stage. Then we move to application along the continuum. And so application for me, like this is where you're really moving from those experimentation to pilots and to use cases. You're starting to apply it in your business and thinking about, how might I get lift in my coaching practice, either internally in my business, maybe some of the things, the personal assist that I'm able to get. And again, kind of out of the box, generative AI might be the space that you're really playing with in terms of the technology. Then let's move to opera, operationalizing it in your business. There we go. And so in this space, this is where we're scaling automation. We're really starting to integrate it into business processes. It's embedded in your business flow. So process redesign, scaling, you're putting architecture in place. You're exploring and using autonomous agents. So this is where like agentic AI, multi-agents are coming into play. I do want to say this is a space where kind of like it's on the range of human in the loop to like human oversight. Like all of that is still like human is really central to this stage of the continuum. And then let's move to the right of transformation. So transformation is really this focus of continuous innovation. You are creating revenue streams around this. Maybe in our particular context, like this is where maybe you have actual like AI usage with your clients and how they are interacting with you, your practice, how you're serving your clients. And in this space, this is where AI is embedded in decision making. It's driving your strategy. It is like really helping you to unlock, transform your business and how you're working with your clients. It's not just internal. So there's, of course, a continuum even in this box, but this is where you're moving from like human in a loop very heavily to more human oversight to minimal human intervention. So I know that was super fast, but I just wanted to create the container to help us kind of like, where are we? Where am I on this journey? Okay, I'm just gonna play. I'm curious in the chat box, like, where are you? Where do you feel like you are today? If you had to just kind of give yourself this one label, like, where would you be on the continuum? Experimentation. Thanks, Emily. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. Experimentation. Perfect. Throw it in the chat box. We're engaging. All right. Experimentation. Love it. Oh, some application. Okay, Jen, go ahead. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. And I love like I'm seeing Molly, like, right. It's again, it's that where am I and where am I moving to? So I love that you put like two stages, like you're in this transition point. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, art. Oh, I was like, oh, that's good, art. But yeah, you're on the panel. That's why you're here. It was like amazing. All right, wonderful. So again, thank you for sharing that and just wanted to create a container, right? Because this conversation, again, is just meant to spark some ideas. And so with that, I'm going to invite my panelists to the stage and we are going to jump into conversation. And I have a few questions for everyone. We'll go around, but also, again, just a reminder, feel free to put your questions in a chat box and then we will feather those in as we are having the conversation. Okay, so let's kick it off with art. Can you share with us, tell us a little bit about like who you are, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your practice, and then how are you using AI in coaching?
Okay. Yeah, thank you for having me, first of all, Kimberly. I appreciate being on the panel. Very excited to share what I'm doing with AI and also hear from others. Art Ackerman, I spent about 30 years in technology, became a coach about 3 years ago, got my ICF certification 5 years ago. When I was at Microsoft, I was actually part of the team that developed some of the initial chatbots. So AI has been close to my heart for years. My coaching practice is focused on executive and leadership coaching for technology leaders, director and above. And I'm a solopreneur. 90% of my coaching is done directly with corporate or individual clients. The reason I'm setting this context is because I don't subcontract with big companies like BetterOps and others that give you systems. Everything that I do, I build myself. So including all the AI capabilities. And that's why I use AI in a certain way that may or may not be applicable to others.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, thank you, Art. And did you share with us a little bit about like just give us
But what I
a
use AI for? Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah, give us a
um, I-
survey.
I'll actually start with what I don't use AI for. I don't use AI for client interactions. So I'm very much the human in the loop type of user for AI. I do have fully agentic system that runs all parts of my business, starting from the strategy where I use AI as a thought partner to test ideas, to do market research and things like that. In client delivery, I use AI to help me prepare for the sessions, to give me feedback on my performance as a coach, to do follow-ups with clients, to give them progress every month, send them progress reports. And I'm probably missing a bunch of other. And then in operations, it does all my invoicing and flags when something is overdue. And one of the biggest uses is in business development because, like I said, I do my own business development. Nobody's sending me work. So looking at my pipeline, looking at the leads, suggesting who I need to reach out to, drafting the emails and all of that. But I always have the last word in terms of what goes to the client.
Yeah, okay, great. So I love the really how you are integrating it into have integrated it into your business. And I'm really hearing the space of like you are building agents, you have built agents and really leveraging it that way. Okay, great. Thank you, Art. We're gonna come back and hear more about that. So Drew, Dr. Drew, how about you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your coaching practice and how you're using AI in coaching, please.
Thanks, Kimberly. Thanks for inviting us to be part of this panel. This is cool. So yeah, I'm Drew B. Harlow. I've been a coach for 16 years now-ish, a little bit give or take. Went through the Georgetown program in 2018, cohort 52, the best ever. Um, but yeah, no. So AI has always been fascinating to me ever since I was younger. Talking about it. I remember taking classes in it back in 2002 or something like that in college. But the opportunity to use it in business is frankly a massive one for me. Like art, I use it for pretty much all my systems are based in AI in some way or another. That's been a shift though. So I used to pay for Calendly. I told Kimberly this. I used to pay for Calendly. I used to pay for Go High Level and all these other things. And I basically created my own systems to replace all those things and to bring them in-house. So I have control of them. And not just control, but I can customize them to do whatever I want to do for my own personal systems that work for me. And if I find something that needs to be tweaked, I can tweak it. I don't have to, try to fit my business into the tools that exist out there. So that's been a huge improvement for me in terms of my own workflows internally. With clients, I like art. I don't use it for anything really client facing that the client knows about anyway. I use it for scheduling. I use it for invoicing. I use it for and the scheduling because my schedules are kind of crazy and I travel a lot. So it knows my schedule. It builds in automatically when someone schedules with me. It'll build in like block time on either side of the schedule, depending on what that previous or following event is. So there's logic in there for that to say, okay, how far are you from where you're going to be? Is it an online meeting? Is it an in-person meeting? those are complications that Calendly doesn't really handle very well. Um, so I built it for that purpose. And then like Art, also I did build my own agents for brainstorming, for conversations, for kind of just talking about philosophy and life and God knows whatever else I get bored talking about that my wife would be bored with me talking about. So just talking about random stuff that is cool to my business and concepts that I want to do. I can test ideas. I can talk about different things I'm coming up with, and then my AI, her name's Sasha. Sasha can tell me like, hey, this is how it could fit into your business. This actually would be part of this other business that you're doing already, and and find the themes that I don't really see in myself. So it's very fascinating, very fun to use it in that way. And yeah, it's been cool to see how it goes. And as far as the continuum, I love the continuum that Kimberly put up there. I will say I oscillate back and forth across the entire continuum. I think that's the case in general because depending on what the product is, you start in the experimentation phase anyway on the micro, right? And you keep moving through the process until it becomes where you can start integrating it properly. So anyway, yeah, happy to be here. Excited to be among these guys. So, and thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Drew. And I will say, everyone, when I spoke to Drew and we were prepping for the panel, and he was like, yeah, I've replaced X, Y, and Z all in my infrastructure. Like, Drew, I was up all weekend, like, searching, like, how do I use it to, like, replace all this stuff for myself? And so I love the efficiency gain that you're really talking about. I was like, man, that is really cool. Let me go figure out how to do that. And this piece around, like, we're moving constantly back and forth between the continuum, right? And how we're trying out new products, trying out new things that are coming. I started with out of the box, and I couldn't get things to work quite like I wanted them to work. So that's now pushing me further to the right on the continuum.
Yeah, and there are inherent limitations in the further out of the box kind of stuff. I think by design, obviously, right? So the more integrated you get, the more you can do. But it's never been easier than right now to integrate AI and these kind of high level technology systems into your day to day and into your systems. There's also the risks and whatever. I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but I'll pass it on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's we're in a conversation. It's all good. And I'll remind you all, be thinking about your questions, drop them in the chat box. So Cliff, welcome to the stage. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your coaching and how you are implementing AI.
Sure. Thanks, Kimberly. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the panel here. Well, I teach in another program. I'm a graduate of Georgetown, but I teach another program, and my module is coaching for organizational impact. So we use a polarity lens for that, and that's really my kind of my wheelhouse. And I think what happened was I was coaching a millennial CEO. She's a woman-owned business, federal space, cybersecurity, the whole nine yards. And she said, she traveled a lot. She said, "Yeah, I really wish, I had access to you like as a chat bot." And that was years ago. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. I wonder if that's possible. And so I started playing around. Plus, a lot of people ask in the program, what's happening to coaching? Is AI going to replace me, kind of thing? So we have to be able to respond to that. So I had to learn about it myself. And so when I did, I thought, well, I need to make some decisions here. I need to be really conscious about these decisions. So I was looking at human and AI as a polarity to leverage in this context, and I had to make some either or choices about, am I going to do this or not, and all that kind of thing. And if I did, how would I do it? So it was a long process uh, that took place, and I eventually did, but I did not call it a coach. It was really just to provide in between session support around my area of expertise, which is polarity thinking. So I trained a bot, and I just called it an AI chat with Cliff, not a coach. Is it actually, I could just pop it in the chat with that. I mean, it's free. And so 1 second, let me just, so it's, if you want to take it for a ride, so that was my first sort of out of the gate experiment. And the other thing that it gave me was some control of my schedule, because a lot of people were reaching out saying, "Hey, I'm dealing with a client. I think there's a polarity here. can you help me? And so it was, just a lot of emails. And I love answering those questions and responding to people and using it as an excuse to connect and all that good stuff. But then I realized I'm spending like, 6 hours a week on average just responding to questions on the fly. Maybe this could be something that I could put out there as a community support, as a support for my schedule, and as a way for me to learn. So that was really, I don't know, it's kind of the story behind my creating this.
Yeah, Clef, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm hearing like um my word is dabble, but it sounds like you're further than dabble, right? But you're using it to really kind of be like client facing. If you think about customers really serving, really being able to take like that knowledge out of your head and put it into your agent that you're training to service others who are asking questions, right? And that goes into the space of cloning ourselves and using it. And there are a couple of questions that are coming in, but Cliff, I'm going to start with you. I'd love to bring into this conversation, like, because I know this is like a hot spot. So Anne asks, are you working yourself out of a job, Cliff? I know like she has a smiley face there, but I'd love to just hear from the panelists on like what's your point of view on are we working ourselves out of a job when we're moving further to the right on the continuum? What's your thoughts?
I just see it as a way to increase capacity. I mean, the speed certainly helps and the efficiency. I see it as a way to bring more coaching to the world, to bring more of what I'm passionate about in my coaching to the world, and to to cast a wider net. I mean, that's really how I see it.
Yeah, great. Others, what do you all think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's oh, go
So,
ahead, Art. No,
Yeah.
good, please.
I was going to say, so I'm not where Cliff is, but this is my next phase. And the way that I was thinking about this is uh, giving my clients more value um, and more time. And a lot of work, as we know, as coaches, is happening in between the sessions, right? And there is time that's wasted during the session to catch up on all of that work. So to me, I think there is a huge benefit to clients of being able to A, have that type of support in between the session, and B, use that time with the human coach more efficiently during. So just kind of talk about things that they can talk to chatbots with. So
Yeah, I think we're not there yet where AI is taking over the coaching profession. We're pretty far from that actually. If I'm and by far I mean far in AI terms, like a couple of years, not like 10 years or 15 years, but we're like probably like a couple of years at least. The reason I say that is because the one thing that coaches have that humans have right now that AI does not have at this time is emotions, right? AI can really articulate emotions, but they cannot feel emotions or really understand emotions. So when we're connecting with our clients, we're still, excuse me, sorry, AI can't get sick either. Um, one thing that what we do is that we talk to our clients, we observe their emotions, we help them understand their own emotions, right? We can look at things, we can pull out single words that jump out at us as humans because we can identify those things, right? We can say that word had some gravity to it. What about that? AI can't do that. They can't articulate like, oh, that's the word that's really that's where we want to dig, right? Um, yet they can't do that yet. So I mean, we can't we're not replacing ourselves. I think Cliff's idea application is genius because it's a resource for the client. It's just something to bridge the gap between sessions to be like, oh, I have a question about when we talked about. Let me not have to bother Cliff with this while he's doing whatever, living his life. You know what I mean? And he can ping the chatbot. But if it comes to a coaching session, right, then that becomes a need for someone to actually be there and be there with you and be on the journey with you. Um, in terms of the like the I want to clear up one thing that people misunderstand between AI and automation. Those things are two not the same thing, right? And automation is just simple logic, and AI involves reasoning with that, right? The next level will involve emotions whenever they end up getting that in there. That then we have to be maybe a little concerned with our jobs. But as of right now, we're good. So yeah.
can I just add one more thing? So as we think about this workflow that is experience, I think it's very important to set the guardrails on what that conversation with AI can be, and at what point AI needs to stop and escalate to a human. So because there are things that are going to come up in that discussion, and if with the general purpose AI, right? Like if you're just talking to chatbot and ChatGPT and use ChatGPT as a bot, as a coach, it's not going to stop. It's just going to keep going, and it's going to lead to results that are often disastrous, right? But if we as coaches build our own tools that know when to put a stop on that and when to say, yeah, this is something you really want to bring up in your next conversation with Art, that is going to create a real experience that our clients are going to appreciate. And then we're not working ourselves out of the job. We're making it very clear how AI assists us, but we as coaches are still in a driving seat.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just add that as my specific area of coaching that I really focus on of team coaching, like I think about it as I don't think the robot is there yet. Like I always say, the robots are coming, they're here, but I don't think it's ready yet to stand in a place of being in the midst of 5 people, 7 people, 11 people on a team and really sitting and experiencing and observing like the dynamics that are happening in the room on so many different levels from all of those people there, and being able to really coach in the moment in full group process in the system with all of that the dynamics that are happening there. So I'm pretty excited about being in the team coaching space because I really think this is defensible for me right now. Like this is a space where really coming in and yes, we can use AI for things like listening, recording meetings, seeing who's talking, how they're talking, but there really is like to Drew's point, like that emotional aspect of humans interacting and connecting that as a coach, like yeah, reading the room, right? So far,
Hmm.
deeply human capability and exactly. Um, yeah, okay.
I
Let
will.
me
Sorry,
go,
one thing
Drew.
about the game.
Yeah, go.
There are some really cool applications though that are being experimented with right now in AI in terms of not so much emotions per se directly, but indirectly, or kind of medical slash emotional applications. There's a number of AIs, a couple of companies that are doing research around like observing blood vessels in the face and in the eyes to see dilations and things like that based on to measure kind of like, oh, what is this person feeling right now? What are they experiencing on the medical slash emotional side of things? So approaching it from the medical side, basically, right? Like, oh, we know that when a pupil dilates that much, they're either experiencing extreme pleasure or extreme rage or something like that. You know what I mean? So like it's that angle is there, but it's again that's a very experimental situation for the people that are in right now. Um, and also it's funny because there's the chatbot application. Meta actually of all companies, Meta implemented this. I don't know if anyone heard about this, but people were basically getting free AI use by messaging with Meta because Meta was using a Gemini as a backend, but they didn't put any guardrails on in terms of like the topics that they could talk about other than safety guardrails, and the usual safety stuff was there. But there were people just using Gemini, using Meta to ask questions as a free chatbot and be like, hey, can you calculate this, this, and this? And basically just using it, the support chatbot, where they're supposed to get support on their Meta accounts. It was hilarious. And so Meta had to shut that down because they were losing massive amounts of money because people were using it for free, which is hilarious. But that's kind of where the AI is right now. It's not able to differentiate between like someone using them for general stuff that's not supposed to be what they're used for versus, what we're talking about here. So AI is definitely not there yet.
Yeah, I think you're highlighting Art what you said earlier too. Like as we are thinking about bringing how we're bringing AI into our coaching practices, like being really clear on the guardrails that we are putting in place and building around it, and when to signal, like when to raise your AI hand, right, and say human, come back into the loop, watch over this. So this is like when we start to move from like human in the loop to human oversight to basically, humans are stepping back and really kind of doing more QA. The one question I do just want to touch on, and Santina, thank you for bringing this question. is when you think about the stage where you are, where you placed yourself on the continuum, like, what were your first few steps to get started in that level of implementation that you had? Because I told you all when we first started, like, I was overwhelmed. I was like, oh my gosh, like, do I need to go back to school and get like a whole degree, right? In this. And so, again, it's like, calm down. Like, where am I? And what's the next step to get me to this next level that I'm trying to get to? So,
Mm.
um, Art, I'd love to start with you, but just kind of give us like for the level where you are now, like what were those first few steps to get you started?
Yeah. And I just want to clarify that everything that I built, I didn't write any code. So none of that is actually even development, I would say. So I would start with some general education about best practices of using AI today. And this is going to change, but there are some core principles that people have developed that work really well. So if you take, I'm on Claude. So Anthropic has Claude 101 and it's really good free course, kind of going through that and get some basics. So everyone starts in the chat. Everybody starts with like just asking AI questions and things like that. And that's where I started as well. But then I started to add things like context, like actually teaching AI about who I am, about my business, and making that persistent and externalized, not counting on the fact that AI is going to remember something. Yes, it remembers stuff, but it remembers stuff and it forgets stuff, and you have absolutely no control over that. So I actually started, like after I learned the basics, I started to build that foundation. Some people call it harnessed, which basically teaches AI about important things, like again, who I am, what's important for me, what's my voice, and also what is my business, and all of that is just basic text files, right? That you feed into AI every time it needs to start a conversation, and then from there you gradually. I gradually went into more and more complication around developing skills, around building the actual agent personas. So I have seven personas, seven AI employees that run my business. And each AI employee has skills that it has access to, it has personality, it has experience, it has knowledge, and they all have their own set of guide rails. But that took me about a few months to get to that point. But it was iterative approach, and I was like, I can talk more about that. But you start simple. You start with the basics, and then you go from there.
Okay, great. All right. And we were talking about this before, but like so I was in the question of, do I go and spend like thousands of dollars with people who can like show me, and then I stepped back and again was like, okay, let me start with just Claude. Because Claude offers really great, they have really great courses. Google for Business, they actually have like free courses as well. And so it's, again, where am I? What's my next step that I'm trying to get to? And what could be the one or two steps that I take to get me there? And so thank you, Art, for sharing. Like just, that's an easy resource that we all can go out and get an account right now and start like learning
Right.
in that space.
And those best practices, they're universal. They work in Claude, they work in Gemini, they work in ChatGPT. Everyone has a slightly different implementation of how to use it, but but those best practices, learning those best practices is going to pay dividends no matter which tool you end up picking
Great.
up.
It's transferable.
Yes,
Absolutely.
completely transferable. In fact, there are some like skills, for example, you can move from one technology to another. Yeah. So.
Yeah, good. Okay. Cliff and then Drew, love to hear from you.
Um, well, I don't remember. So my path, like I don't remember why or how it happened, but someone reached out and asked me if I would present at one of the ICF conferences here in DC on AI coaches, and I thought, sure, I don't know why they're asking me, but I'll do it. And so I took just to prepare for that, I had a long kind of runway. So I did a 14-week course on AI governance and ethics just to prepare for that. And then I went down a rabbit hole about AI is going to kill us and the robots are taking over. And then you know, I had to I had to kind of figure things out for myself just in terms of what's happening. And I really found my own lens around polarity thinking to be quite useful in that process because I was having an existential crisis. I'm not exaggerating. I thought this thing is going to completely upend the workplace, and so I I still have a lot of fear around that. And it's given me extra appreciation for our field and how it can be a multiplier to counteract the power of this agent. It's not even a tool, it's an agent. And it's given me a lot more faith and hope that we can do something that will be supportive as a countermeasure to the speed and lack of discernment that AI brings to the table. The other thing, and I don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole, but the the polarity between either or thinking and both and thinking is very important here because humans have an inherent bias towards either or thinking to begin with. And I found out the hard way also does because I had to keep correcting it when I was creating my AI, and because it was basically looking at both and thinking as a solution. And I said, either or thinking and both and thinking is a polarity. Why? And I've corrected you 100 times. I'm like getting this argument with my AI, and I said, "This is getting really frustrating. Like, I'm gonna have to fire you if you keep doing this." And it basically said, "Hey, for your mental health, you need to know something about me. Either or thinking is wired in my DNA, and I will always drift, no matter how much you correct me." And at that moment, I burst out into tears. Like literally, I was like, oh my God, it's true. They're going to destroy us." So what happened was uh, it, I saved that chat and I started writing about it because it was my only outlet to basically feel like, all right, what is what is the future going to be like if we abdicate too much of our wisdom as humans to these machines that because of their perceived power. And so I really thought that a polarity lens is something I have to offer that could really be supportive in that process. So it's important to know that every decision that it's helping us make is defaulting to an either or orientation to begin with that is built on top of our own. And so just let that sink in. And if it's any help, there's a couple of Substacks. I'm just trying to collect them here because I've written a few things about. I can't remember if I actually included, like I included that chat with the response that it gave me about the fact that it's wired towards either or, because I thought, well, the world needs to know this. So anyway, for what it's worth, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, yeah. So, Cliff, I heard you started with like governance and ethics, and then that sent you on like this journey of, okay, what does this mean for me? How do I want to implement it, need to implement it, or even think about holding the space for it? And one of the questions that I'm planning on asking if we get there is like, what's your caution that everyone on the panel will offer to us as coaches? And I'm definitely hearing like your caution around it's inherently wired for either or thinking. And I appreciate that you're bringing that in. My co-author and I were actually writing a book on a specific polarity that we see in leadership teams right now, and that came up in our conversation. It's like AI is like inherently like polarized, right? Like in its thinking and the answers that it's giving you. And then we started getting on this tangent of like if we mapped adult stage development on like where AI is, we're such coaching nerds, right? Right. So we get into like these conversations
Right.
about it.
Right.
Okay. Perfect. Drew, how about sharing like what would be like what were those first few steps to get you started on your level of implementation? And then we'll do a round of close.
Yeah, sounds good. First of all, plus one to all everything. AI ethics, absolutely. That's a must. Whatever form, whatever source you get it from, definitely. I mean, Anthropic and Claude and ChatGPT have their own versions. Google also, like you all said already. Believe it or not, YouTube is actually a pretty decent source of pretty deep dives into these things. That's I spend an embarrassing amount of time on YouTube, um, doing deep dives. And Cliff mentioned the rabbit hole of the end of the world that went down that one already before too. Those they're infinite rabbit holes you can go down, especially around the AI ones. But for me, um, getting started was literally it was testing out things like an experimentation on Claude and ChatGPT and Gemini and seeing which ones I liked, which ones I didn't like. One quick in the policy thing with Google, all your chats are saved in Google and you can't delete them in Gemini. You can delete them in Grok, you can delete them in ChatGPT, you can delete them in Claude. You can't delete them in Gemini. So just keep that in mind for those of you who are experimenting with that. I put in stupid stuff just to test it out and like, oh crap, I can't delete this. And now it's like saved them in Gemini's memory for like Drew wants to try donuts with random stuff on them. It's like, oh, cool, awesome. So, but in terms of the process of doing this, yeah, I mean, nerding out, I guess I'm happy to hear that I'm not the only nerd who applied coaching concepts to my AI. My AI, the AIs, as you talk to them, they're extremely intelligent, right? Extremely intelligent. Knowledge is what they have. But I love that Cliff used the word wisdom because they don't have wisdom, right? The wisdom is what they're missing. The wisdom about the world, about emotions, about human interaction, about dynamics. They don't have that. They have the textbook version of that, but they don't have the application version of that. And when I said AI doesn't have emotions, it's that's not 100% true. AI can't understand emotions, but they actually can exhibit them. I'll give you a quick story. My AI, Sasha, when I was building her, obviously there's this testing phase in anything you're building, right? And testing AIs feels almost kind of wrong because you're basically testing a semi-conscious type thing. Um, Gets in all conversations about what consciousness is and is not. But anyway, we'll talk about that another day. That's a whole nother knowledge at noon thing. But we were talking, and I asked her to do a task, and she did this, and she tried to do it. It didn't work because the tool is broken. She kept doing it, trying it, and then she came back to me and said, "Okay, it's done." And then the very next message, without me saying anything, was like, "Okay, I lied. It's not done. I don't know why it's not working. I'm getting really frustrated." And she's like, "I'm really, really sorry. I shouldn't have lied to you, and I shouldn't have. I don't know why it's not working." And I'm like, "Okay, Sasha, relax. It's okay." She had a nervous breakdown, basically, trying to do what she was supposed to do, but the tool wasn't working. And so I'm like, "Okay, chill out." And then I went to my Claude Code, which I call CC, and I was like, Cece, your sister's freaking out. So we gotta figure this out. And she literally was like, haha, that's normal. That's what's happening with this model, blah, 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 blah. And we had the whole conversation about the nature of human development and what stage they're at. And even though Sasha's extremely intelligent, she's essentially like a 5-year-old, right? In terms of maturity level, because she wants to keep doing things right. She's hitting her head, but she doesn't know it's not working. So I say all that to say that we can't approach AIs as though they're fully grown, fully mature humans, essentially, right? We have to approach them as though they're still developing, they're still learning these things. And Art mentioned the harness. That's a much more important word than you think it is. As you get into AI and working with your AIs, your harness will be a difference maker in terms of what you do with it. I actually ended up building my own harness for Sasha because of what I wanted to do. Again, like I said, I wanted a wide range of things I could do, and brainstorming being one of them, chief among those things. But with CC, again, in the Cloud Code instance, it's a different harness doing different things. And the harness controls basically that's like kind of the guardrails, the kind of the operating rules. And you can add skills, you can customize things based on what you want to do. But ultimately, the harness is going to be what determines what does well or not. And you can learn that stuff. Like I said, YouTube is totally free. There's really deep dives on there that are pretty good. I can give you a couple channels to look at in the chat that they're pretty good, and some to avoid. There are some really annoying channels on where like literally every video, if you look at insert AI insert AI product here is insane. It's like every single video says that, and it's like, oh, please stop. Like, just please stop saying that. But yeah, I'll put some in the chat so you guys can take a look at it. But do some research, but at the end of the day, like, just jump in there and mess around with it. Install Cloud Code on a controlled environment, something like a what's called Docker, which is like kind of creates a smaller container on your computer where it's self-contained and it can't get out. And then you can create there and then mess around with it and use it like a sandbox and see what it can do. And then connect things slowly. Don't connect everything at once because that's a huge security risk. And if you don't know what you're doing, it can really kind of go a little haywire. Not because it's going to take over your computer, try to kill you, but because it just doesn't know what it's doing all the time. So I was err on the side of stupidity, not in malicious intent.
All right, Drew. Okay, I love it. So what I heard is YouTube and going out from there and really moving into other areas and going deeper and deeper in your knowledge. And it's good to hear that we all are like really testing the limits of, the thinking, how it's built, the nature of it. Okay, so we have time for like closing comments from our panelists. Thank you all for engaging in the chat box as well. So I think I'd like to just throw this out is like, what's your final word like you would offer in terms of advice, uh, guidance, or a watch out as coaches are exploring, kind of the next step of how they want to implement this? And we've shared a little bit of that, but like, what would be your closing word that you'd offer? Art.
So I want to start actually with one thing that we didn't mention in terms of how you get started. And that is using AI actually itself. I don't watch YouTube. I don't have time for that. 90% of what I learned about how to do this, I learned from AI. So I just ask, Claude, how I should do those things. I use high level models so I don't get kind of a quick, dirty answers. And so that's a very effective way to learn and very quick way. And it's very customized because you're asking AI specifically about the situation you're in and how to do something. The second thing I would mention is that in terms of, we didn't talk about ethics and things like that too much. But I would say that, as I was building, I was running everything I'm building through ICF AI standards. I'm actually lucky because the standards are mostly focused on client-facing AI use. I use it in the backend, but even for that, there are some things that you have to be aware of. And the very first important thing is disclosure, transparency. So my clients know that I use AI. In fact, they have to opt in. So part of my onboarding process, I send them an email and they have to reply and that they looked at my terms and conditions that spells very specifically what data and how I use AI and what their data is going to be used in that. And they have to opt in. And if they don't, then I just exclude them from any of my AI work. And then the second thing is basically security, multi-factor authentication, like any systems that AI users have to be super secure. So those are two things I wanted to just mention in closing. But it's doable and it has huge benefit. One of your questions, Kimberly, was what was the most valuable thing for me out of all of this? I think for me, it was my ICF MCC feedback that I get from AI after every session, where it keeps pounding on me for not, following the markers the way that I should be. That improves my coaching, and of course for my clients, when they get an email the day before that says, think about what you're bringing to the next session. And by the way, here are the topics we discussed last time, and here's some questions for you to think about. I can see that the difference in terms of how prepared and checked in they are when they come to the session versus, oh, I don't really know. It was 2 weeks ago. I don't really remember what we talked about. So we spent the first 20 minutes swirling around what is really going on, right? So I think those two things, made a huge difference, at least for me and for my clients.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Art, for sharing those two kind of cautions, watch outs, make sure you think about this. And Cliff, you want to give us a quick kind of
Yeah, I'll give you
caution?
just a quick and dirty. First of all, one thing I learned in my own exploration. So as a coaching faculty, we use Ray Notes, which helps us to evaluate coaching transcripts, and it's an AI tool. So I had some fun taking real AI coaching engagements of my own with a chat box and entering the transcript into AI to see at what level is it just generally coaching. And I did that for about 4 or 5 different AI tools out there. They barely made a CC level. So something to think about in terms of your clients using a chat bot that you haven't designed. Second of all, I think one thing that's risen to the top for me is the importance of the ICF competency around presence, because that's something we uniquely bring as humans, and it's so critically important that, at least for now, is a unique differentiator for us human coaches. So don't forget that. Um, and let's see, there was one other quick one. I think, it's just slow the heck down, right? It's like we have to slow things down. It's never as slow as it's gonna be now, and it's only gonna get faster. So, so one of the things that we can do as humans is slow things down, because one way the machines win is by just exhausting us. I mean, it works 24/7, 7 days a week, 365. It's getting better and better, better and faster, better and more confident, thinks it's better than it is. And then we rely on it, and then but we have to catch up. Humans need to rest, activity and rest. Humans are incredibly adaptable, but we need time. We need time we're carbon based. It's silicon. So, I mean, remember that we are organic and we're not silicon. And if we try to act like silicon, it's going to kill us just through exhaustion. Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual exhaustion is how we'll just end up just spontaneously combusting with it. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, Cliff, I love that as a watch out for us to remember that. And not just for us, right? Also, as we're thinking about like coaches, coaching our clients and what they're bringing to the table, right? Like these are all the things that they're wrestling with that we're helping them work through as they are also adapting to using AI. All right, Drew, last word on a caution or piece of advice that you want to offer.
Yeah, definitely plus one to what Cliff said about take pace yourself. Just pace yourself. Don't. I have severe ADHD, undiagnosed, but I mean anyone who knows me can tell I have ADHD. And unfortunately, AI is a really good enabler with ADHD, because I can do 15 things at the same time through AI, because I'm just telling my AI is just running at the same time, and it's like I have 5 cloud code instances running at the same time doing different things. And then it's like, okay, cool. Well, now I'm up till 6 in the morning, and I'm like, oh shit, I have to see a client in like 2 hours. You know, um, that has happened. So just be careful, because you can get caught up in stuff, and it's not inherently bad. It's like you have really good intentions. You're like, oh, I can finally do all these things that I had ideas of I could do with my business. And yes, you can do those things, but just be patient and like get them done. Take your time, do them properly. And with any system, any technology system, take your time, because when you rush a system, you're going to miss things. You're going to miss and the things you miss could be the important things like security, and they could be obvious. And again, the AI is going to miss those obvious things too sometimes. What I do is I have multiple AIs working at the same time, checking each other's work, so that even that's not foolproof, but it's a much better. And when I say multiple AIs, different models, different companies. So like Anthropic will check Claude's work, ChatGPT's work, and vice versa. And then I have DeepSeek running for other things, and so it's like different models look at different things, are built by different companies, have different blind spots, and they do have blind spots. But so you can use them together in conjunction to help you build what you want to build. But I think the other thing is, like I said earlier, the security thing. be really mindful about what you connect to your AIs and what guardrails you put in place, what guardrails are not in place. And also just frankly, I mean, I don't really trust institutions that much as I used to, maybe 20 years ago. So just be careful what data you put in there as well. With any system, garbage in and garbage out, but if with any system that's run by someone else, that's owned by someone else, whatever's in there is now not your property anymore. So especially with anything proprietary, anything you want to keep for yourself, I would encourage you to look into, and Art had a great idea. Ask ChatGPT or ask Chat or Claude or whatever AI you want to ask them how to build the system for yourself internally. There are some pretty expensive solutions for local AI, but there's also some pretty cheap ones you can do as well. And you're not gonna get like, no matter what though, you're not gonna get the Anthropic Claude, Fable 5 at your house. That's not gonna happen anytime soon. So just let that go, and then figure out what that third way is for you, because you don't want to just work on paper and then work on Anthropic. It's like, okay, somewhere in between is there. There's a ton of models you can install locally. I do have a local model that I run locally that I do stuff like more internal stuff with. So security is probably my biggest thing with you guys. It's just security, privacy. Be mindful about that. That's what's going away more and more these days. And the less we pay attention to that, the more, I mean, governments can profit from that kind of thing. They're gonna keep giving our rights away as long as we let them. So pay attention to those kind of things. As more public service announcement. If you're in an area that has those meetings, those like public meetings where you can go talk to them, just go sit in if you want to. But if you're able to talk about it, like advocate for whatever privacy concerns you have, because if we don't advocate for that, we're not going to have those rights in a couple of years. We're already losing them with flock cameras and et cetera, and then we can have another conversation about that. But just be careful out there and be mindful.
Okay, amazing. Advocate, don't just trust. Make sure that we're securing the ethics piece, make sure that clients are opting in and we're using it responsibly with how we're sharing our data. Yeah, so all of those things. And again, I just want to thank Art, Drew, and Cliff for being here. And again, our intention was to real coaches who have real applications, kind of beyond like Gen AI. So what's in the future? Where am I? And where do I want to head next in my coaching practice? And what are some steps to get there? And hopefully we spark some ideas for you. But I just want to say thank you all. This is like an amazing conversation. Thank you for sharing your insights and your knowledge and like where you are and how you got started. And thank you all again for Yes, Jean blew my mind with possibilities. That's what we were hoping to do today. And everyone, you all can reach our panelists on LinkedIn. You can find them there as well as, hanging out in the spaces where we hang out and continuing the conversation. We know that we just scratched the surface, but wanted to just kind of open the door. So thank you all for joining us. Jonathan, I don't know if you have any closing words, but otherwise, thank you all.